my conscience to feel good, needed to, donate some clothes and get rid of some of the clothes in my closet. So I can be like, yeah, you know what? I declutter. I get rid of some of the clothes. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome if you're new. Welcome back if you're revenant. Please consider subscribing if you like everything and anything about secondhand fashion, chaotic styling, and yapping. For today's video, we're going to talk about decluttering and closet clean out because this spring those videos were heavily recommended to me, which in a way makes sense because there's this idea that when springs comes around, it's time to kind of renew your wardrobe, to kind of renew everything, to make space, to, it's spring. So spring is like blooming, and spring is a new season. Spring is like the sun is now setting later and it's getting warmer. So there's this need to kind of renew yourself in a way because you were kind of hibernating in the winter and kind of, slouching around and not doing much because it was cold. But now spring is there. Now you a new person. And there's a reason why we call it like spring cleaning as well, because you kind of need to renew your entire space. And it's very widely accepted that, spring cleaning is a thing, to renew yourself, to renew your closet, to renew your house is a thing. And as someone who likes to think about, fashion in a very critical way, in my own, like consumption as well and relationship that I have with it. I've been thinking about, spring cleaning quite a lot the past few years because I don't do them much anymore. And the reason I don't is because the way I consume is actually leading me to like declutter less, And I wanted just to share my little thoughts, and also wanted to know what you think about like this whole like spring cleaning, decluttering thing, because like there's actually many reasons why people are doing it. I want to start this chapter with my own experience about decluttering and why now I have come to declutter only every few years, and not every year like I used to. And it's because I feel like that if you do watch my video, you kind of now know that I like to think critically about my consumption and my relationship to fashion, especially as someone who's been loving fashion for the longest time, since I was 12, I think. And who, when I got to know more about like the behind the scenes and like grow a conscience on social issues and injustices and all that jazz, then I started to be really much at odds with this because it's a field that I really like, but the way it operates is something that I don't like. So as someone who's starting to kind of be quite aware of the environmental impact of fashion quite early on, um, I needed to find a way to balance my love for fashion, but also my care for the environment and like everything that is ensuing within the fashion, well, because it's not just about the environment, it's about like also the bodies on the line. And my way to kind of cope with that was to literally declutter. I felt like that if I was, getting rid of some of the clothes at least twice a year and giving some of them to the charity, I was doing a good deed, Like I'm helping a charity so they can raise money with the clothes. Those clothes can go to people in need. And, I'm also making sure that I'm not full of clothes and I'm not too overwhelmed with clothes. So I feel like that for me, I was seeing this whole win-win. Like if I do this, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to have a good conscience about the good deed that I'm doing because I'm also helping, and then you later find out that basically only 10% of the donated clothes really end up in charity shops. Majority of them, they do end up in landfills in the global south, or incinerated, which is creating like a disaster for the environment. So then I kind of got to know a bit more about that, and I was just like, is it really, really, you know, the good way to go about it? Starting being like, okay, so was I doing it because I was really caring about the environment and really, trying to find way to fight the whole um in problem that we have within the fashion industry, or was I doing it to feel good because I was told that I was the one responsible for the you know like climate crisis that is happening, that it's my fault if we are actually heading towards our demise? Like, was I feeling guilty? So now I needed to find a way to um lift that guilt away, and by doing so, I needed my conscience to feel good. So my conscience to feel good needed to, donate some clothes and get rid of some of the clothes in my closet, so I can be like, yeah, you know what, I declutter, I get rid of some of the clothes. And the more I thought about that, the more I was just like, you know, like I was not doing it for the right reason. Because, first of all, putting the blame on the individual in a system that is inherently sick and unethical is completely pointless. Like, we can do all the little steps that we want if the bigger guys who are actually like doing the problem, making the problem worse, are not being held accountable, like, changes are going to go really, really, really slow. And at that moment, I kind of started realizing that the whole decluttering, clearing out your closet, just like I mentioned in my previous video, was a band aid. Like a band aid for us to use so we can feel good about ourselves without really, you know, um, like resolving the problem. Because the whole goal of, you know, caring about the environment, especially trying to make the fashion realm more sustainable, is to find solutions that are not perpetuating the ongoing problems. And when you start to realize that basically what you are doing is not really helping that much, because it's just another way to guilt trip you into feeling, you know, horrible, and trying to find ways to like make yourself feel better by still participating in the system. That's when I was like, I need to rethink the whole decluttering thing. Hello, first time interjecting, and I think it's important for me to add that bit because I was not really naming it, and I think it kind of makes it clearer as to why, rethinking decluttering was kind of crucial to me, because I'm talking about how I was decluttering to make myself feel good and also to lift a guilt off of my shoulder. And basically, all of that is linked to mental health, and mental health in decluttering is actually very, very much emphasized. Like, if you search up article on decluttering and the benefits of it, mental health is always going to be promoted and, written down, like you doing that for your mental health. So, this whole, you need to make space so your mental is actually also free from the clutter, and it gets you to function and operate like properly. And so this whole kind of linking decluttering to mental health, which is actually not wrong, because it's true that when you're too overwhelmed, it actually gets a little bit harder to really, really, you know um function properly, and to really be feeling good. But the thing is, we are being sold decluttering as another, self-care tool. And you can do all the self-care that you want in this world. If the system is not being healed, it's not going to do much. It's just going to give you a tool on how to cope with this society and this system, but it's not actually really doing anything for the system. It's just working with the system, and so, like, you might feel good and better, but it's a very short term solution that we are being given here. And I invite you to go read my article that I wrote on Substack on, self care, and the title is "Self Care Isn't Helping Us," because, like, we need the system to change in order to bring up sustainable alternatives. And I talked about it in my previous video. As long as the system is not taken care of, all the solutions that we are given are just obsolete, because if those solutions are just working with the system and not challenging the system, it's pointless. The way I'm approaching it is not the right way. And then it led me to think about the whole decluttering and clearing out closet that I was watching on YouTube, because as someone who very much enjoy fashion content, that's a content that kind of grew quite big on this platform. And so I was watching a lot of them. And by watching a lot of them, as I was in my process of also rethinking how to go about that decluttering thing, it kind of raised a lot of question to me. And I started kind of realizing some things happening within that again was not really helping to resolve the problem, but more so fully partaking within the system and therefore helping the system. Watching those, decluttering videos, there's something that I was realizing a lot, is that a lot of those people who were, decluttering their closet and then selling their clothes or getting rid of their clothes, would then use the excuse of, I got rid of some of the clothes so I can actually buy new clothes. So they were making space to fill that space back up right after. And it kind of then got me asking if, you know, if the people also doing it were more so doing it to make themselves feel good, rather to really do it because they really needed to get rid of the clothes. And, because like it was so constant to hear people being like, oh, but I got rid of some of the clothes. Now I can buy new clothes. And it kind of then, struck me so much, because I kind of realized that basically this whole band aid that we gave us about decluttering to feel ourselves better was just a way for us to then again feel better to keep consuming. Because if you got rid of some of the clothes, then it means that if you buy new clothes, you should not feel bad about that because you got rid of some of the clothes already. So it was just the whole thing of, yeah, like consumerism. You need to consume as much as possible. And even though you're trying to find solution to get rid of the problem, you still need to consume. And I've mentioned that in so many of my videos, that the reason why, like, the system, which is capitalism, needs you to consume is because it's the only way that is actually legitimate for that system to exist. If you don't consume, and you're just consuming mindfully, meaning that, you're only consuming what you need and buying when you need it, and making sure that all the clothes that you have are lasting the longest time, well, there's no need for this form of capitalism that we have to exist. But because this form of capitalism that we have is very much, you know, working on this obsolescence, meaning that, when you're buying something, it has to, be lasting the shortest time. So it keeps you buying, it keeps you, consuming. They are purposely made not to last long. Well, the whole decluttering thing is also entering that system. You get rid of your clothes, you sell them, or you, like, give them to charity or to friends or whatever. So you make space, so then you can feel good about, consuming more, or keep consuming, because now that you have, like, the space, and you did your good deed, nobody can tell you anything. It was such an interesting kind of awakening to kind of realize that, because the more videos I was watching about that, the more I was hearing the people kind of having this reasoning, the more it was not really sitting right with me, because I kind of then realized that that's the reasoning I was having as well. I was getting rid of my clothes because it would make me feel better to keep consuming new clothes, And when I realized that, I was just like, not only I was feeling better about consuming more clothes, when in fact, may you consume first hand or second hand in this economy, in this system, it's not really changing much. It's not really changing much, because we are not the problem, the corporations are. So, like, as I started realizing that basically this whole decluttering thing was not really helping, and it was just another way to get us to keep consuming, and to just give us, really kind of unsustainable solutions, because this is what those are unsustainable solutions. These solutions are not lasting long. They just, like, they last a bit for the time being, but the system is still going on about its day. The system is not being changed, and the system is not being challenged. And the whole goal of those unsustainable solutions is exactly this: to not challenge the system, to kind of give you this kind of idea that, like, you might be, making some waves within the system, but you actually not. Because at the end of the day, like, you got rid of your clothes, you're probably gonna, either sell them on the secondhand app, or you're going to give them to charity. Either way, I've talked about my latest video, my last week video, about how secondhand app and resellers was actually getting out of hand. So it's participating to another issue, and the whole um, like, charity shop thingy. It's just like, only 10% of the donated clothes are really ending up in charity shops. Otherwise, the rest, they end up in landfills or incinerated. That's when I was like, okay, so the whole problem in this decluttering, clearing out your closet, it's still consumerism. It's still they want you to feel good to keep consuming. So if you have this illusion that you're doing good and, like caring a bit more about the planet, and, not overwhelming yourself with so many clothes, um, well, you're going to keep partaking in the system, because you're going to keep consuming, because then you have this, again, idea that now that you got rid of some of the clothes, you can keep consuming, you can buy new one, you can fill the whole space that you liberated back up. As I was rethinking my approach to decluttering and kind of realizing that, the years back I was doing it like mindlessly. I was just doing it because I was being told to do it, because I was being told that that was the only solution for me to be sustainable, to be ethical. As I rethought that, I kind of then realized that there were so many times where there are some items that I gave away because, I was mindlessly just trying to get rid of clothes so I could make space for new ones in my closet. That, later on I was regretting giving away, because later on I was just like, oh my God, I know that I had bought that, but I just gave it away because I thought that I would not be wearing it, or I would not be into it, because that item of clothing could have been, now on trend, or just me thinking that, oh, if I had something that looked like that, that would have been amazing for the outfit. Like, it's just later on you kind of realizing that, and then it got me thinking about the whole kind of trend process as well, where we know that trends are cyclic. So trend come and go. And as they come and go, it means that they're going to be trendy for a short period of time, but they're going to come back later on. And then it kind of got me thinking about how, my whole process in approaching decluttering had to be like long term. Instead of thinking short term, how we've been kind of pushed to think about, and be like, okay, like I have not worn this. So since I haven't really worn this, I can get rid of it. And like, it was so like mindless, because then we would always be like, oh, if I need to buy something similar, I might actually buy it again or whatever, which also makes no sense, because if you have it and you know that you might actually like it, keep it. This whole kind of, I know people put themselves some rules where they're like, oh, if I haven't worn the item for 6 months or a year, I'm going to get rid of it. Which, like, if it's working for you, great. But I think that when you know that trends are cyclic, and we are human beings with also waves of, things that we like and things that we don't like. And sometimes it just happens that you might be more into some item of clothing than others, but it does not necessarily mean that you're not really liking the clothes. It's just that we just have waves of, like feelings and stuff like that. And some items you wear them more than others. It got me to really, really deeply think about how to go about decluttering, how to be in a more like long term, you know, process, because my whole thinking of sustainable fashion is actually long term. Sustainability means long term. It's a synonym to long term, that it's lasting longer, you know? So that is the whole goal. So when you then kind of have this focus on, okay, so now I need to think in a long term, and I need to kind of be more aware of, my clothes, and kind of really know that, kind of ask myself, is am I hating this item of clothing, and I know that it's not something that is going to work for me, or is it that at the moment I'm not really, into the item of clothing. It's still an item that I'm really liking, but I'm just not having it. So I can actually just have it in the storage, knowing that it is in the storage. And the moment it's actually going to come back to me, like I want to wear something similar, I can get it out, you know. And I think because, people were going about with all those rules again about being like, oh, if after 6 months I don't wear it, or after a year I get rid of it, because a lot of people had, like, you know issues to really get rid of their clothes, which is very understandable, because when you actually love your clothes, getting rid of them is hard, especially when people also think about, oh, what if, I might like it in a few years time. And I think the whole question is not to ask what if, is to ask, do you like it now? Is it just that you less into it, or is it just that you are not into it at all anymore? Because I feel like that if we kind of recalibrate the questioning, it's going to help a bit more. If you know that it's just that, okay, yeah, right now that this item of clothing, I'm not really into it, um and I'm kind of reaching out to other items of clothing, but it's not that I hate this item of clothing, because I can still wear it and I can still see myself wearing it. And especially if you've been wearing it for like all this time, like, it's still something that you can wear. It's just that you're you have shifted into something else, which is completely normal, because we get infatuated to other things and we get bored to other things. But just because we get bored to some things does not mean that we need to write them off completely. It's just that, you have to put them aside a bit and then come back to them later. Second interjection, it's not secret that trends are very much influencing the way we view our clothes. And the more people you see wearing a specific item of clothing, the more you're going to be inclined to also follow the trends. And since trends are getting shorter and shorter, our infatuation with a specific item of clothing is also going to be shortened. But it does not mean that we don't like the item of clothing anymore. It's just that we have been influenced into putting it aside to then, like, follow the wave of the trend. And it also means that basically we wearing some item of clothing less, especially if you're someone who follows fashion religiously and who's very much into trends. There's so many of those, items that right now I know that I would have loved and wear and stuff like that. May they be trendy or not, but now I'm just like, I can't be bothered to try to find them again. And I already have, like, so many clothes that I know that I can try to make something similar with what I already have, But it's always the whole thing of, if my thought process was different back then, I was more thinking about, okay, I'm just not into it right now, but I know it's something that I still love and enjoy. So I'm just going to put it on the side because I'm just bored of it. And knowing that when I need it, I can actually, like, go back to it. Uh, it would have been better, because when I think now about how trends are so cyclic, the way that I have been going about with my decluttering is also completely different. It's super different, because now I just know that, okay, some clothes I just need to store them. It's really like, okay, if it's too short, I'm not, I'm really hating it, because I know that it's just like, what the hell is this? I'm getting rid of it. But if it's just that I'm just not wearing it right now, okay, but maybe store it, because you've worn it. And it just like trends are cyclic, your preferences are cyclic as well. You're going to like something more, like, for some period of time, and then you're going to like it less. Not necessarily dislike it, but just like it less, and move on to something else. So one thing that I have found that is actually helping me quite well, and that has helped me for quite some years now is to digitize my wardrobe. And not only it helps me know everything that I have, so when, for example, I might maybe need something, I'm gonna add it to my wish list, and at least I can be like, okay, so I don't have that, I can add it to my wardrobe. If I'm getting rid of a piece of clothing that now I dislike, I can remove it. Like, to have like a whole idea of everything that I have also is actually really, really helping me, because archiving your clothes and knowing what you have is also very much helping you not consume too much, and just consume what you need. Because when you are clear with the things that you have and that you love, it's better. And you can also archive like all the clothes that you decide to store like somewhere in your house, because at the moment you're not actually wearing it. And like in your notes app, or even in your digital wardrobe, if you can have like another wardrobe. And that's something actually a lot of like digital wardrobe don't have, at least the one that I have, where you can have maybe a digital wardrobe of like items that you have that you're not using. Like, it would be nice to have like different type of tabs. So if someone here watching this video works for digital wardrobe app, please, you can take this idea to have like a tab where you can add, archive, pieces of clothes that you have. So basically, if there's like a piece of clothing that you own but you're not wearing at the moment, because it's stored somewhere, you can still archive it there, so everything that you have archived in your wardrobe. But in the meantime, you can use your notes app, to archive it, take picture, and just have it there. I think the reason why I love to, think critically about fashion in general, and all those little things such as decluttering, which might maybe sound a bit, you know, what the hell are you even paying attention to that? But it's just that not only I want to show, even in the littlest thing, capitalism is entrenched in it. That the moment that the system is not changed, changes are hardly going to happen. Because when the alternatives that we are given are working for the system, so, it just, like I like to call it, a band aid, changes are not really happening. And it's because I love fashion so much that I want it to do good. We need to question, why is decluttering so big? Why so many people are doing it? Like, why it keeps happening every year? You know? Like, is it really doing something? Why do people keep then being completely frustrated that they sold something that they could have used now? I think it's the moment and it's the time to really push people to really think critically about how they approach things, such as decluttering, you know, and how they consume. Just because we are being told that getting rid of some of the clothes is doing great, does not mean that you have. Like, question yourself, is this something that you really want to get rid of because you hate it and you know for sure you're never going to wear it? Or is more like you're not into it right now? Because those are two different things. And the moment you kind of get clearer with the question that you ask yourself, is the moment you get to be more clear as well with how you consume. And it's like easier for you to kind of, again, have a global view of like your consumption and your relationship to it. Don't write off fashion completely. If that's something that you love, it's something that I love. Just be critical of it because you love it so much, and find like alternatives. And I think like communicating and sharing is very, very important. Okay, people, so that's it for Me, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like always, let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on the matter. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me a lot. Share it around as well. The more the merrier. And in the meantime, I'll see you in my next video. Love always.